Alright guys, welcome back to more Stellar Blade goodness. We've got even more juicy information to go over. Obviously, as each day goes by, we are creeping closer and closer to the release date. Coming up to about a month and a half now until release. Very exciting times. We have more information from Hyung Tae Kim, the director of Stellar Blade, going over some interesting details you should definitely know about the game. This is coming from Game Informer's most recent issue, where they sat down with Kim to talk all things about this game, so let's dive into it. So we've already talked about how Nier Automata is the biggest inspiration point for Stellar Blade. This much is obvious even without a raw confirmation, but Kim recently provided even more information about this inspiration, saying that Nier Automata was actually the starting point and initial motivation to develop this game. That's pretty big kudos to Yoko Taro. Again, just adding this in, Yoko Taro has personally endorsed this game, is fully aware of it, but Kim, being such a massive fan of Nier Automata, was so inspired by Yoko Taro's creation that he wanted to go out and create something along the same lines. He goes on to mention, while Nier Automata did give motive to the progression of the story, the combat itself is different. Of course, they share a common factor of being an action game, but we tried to make the combat flashier, yet tense, with Stellar Blade. While I do think thematically Stellar Blade has a lot of similarities to that of Nier Automata, I will say that it seems like the gameplay perspective of the action combat is certainly a massive focus of this game. And this is one thing that I've been saying, that yeah, sure, we have attractive main character, graphics are pretty, there's a lot of drawing factors here, but the most important one has to be gameplay, otherwise no one's wanting to stick around. Looking at both Nier Automata and Replicant, being my second favorite Square Enix franchise of all time, I do believe both of those games do include competent action combat systems, but I wouldn't say they're incredibly amazing. There is a bit of depth to them, and especially looking at Nier Automata being developed by Platinum Games, they did a pretty solid job with the combat system, but when you do look at something like Stellar Blade, it is most certainly flashier. It is going to be interesting to see the amount of depth that will also come along with this system, but from everything we've heard and seen so far, I think we have a pretty promising combat system here with Stellar Blade. This game started development back in 2018, so that's a pretty quick follow-up considering that Nier Automata, the initial motivation point to develop this game, was released the year before in 2017. We got our first look at this game in April of 2019, going by the title of Project Eve, before the title switch to Stellar Blade happened in 2022. This game was picked up in 2021 by PlayStation to be published as a PS5 exclusive. Originally, the game was slated to release on PS4, Xbox One, and Steam, but now that of course PlayStation have their foot in the project, this means that it remains exclusive to the PlayStation console, though maybe in due time we might get a PC release. I remember catching this trailer back in 2019, it shows us some very pretty visuals, no gameplay, but this is running all in engine. The character of Eve also looks very different too. This is probably before the time that they actually got the Korean model to do body scans for Eve's character model. You can tell that Shift Up have been working incredibly hard to define Eve's facial features. Her face looks totally different in this trailer. And it's one thing for a game to have booba jiggle physics, but what about a game having booty jiggle physics? Well, the very first Stellar Blade trailer showed us booty jiggle physics. No idea if this is still in the full game, but very interesting. Can't say I've ever seen this in a video game. But with the game beginning development in 2018, that means that this game has been in development for 6 whole years. That is definitely above average AAA development time, though Kim did mention with Game Informer that over in Korea, it is especially hard to form a team of console developers. More so, the gaming market is dominated by mobile phone game development. He mentions that for Korea, that balance where it's mainly dominated by the mobile phone gaming space needs to be broken, and that console game development needs to be more prominent. Talking a little bit about the combat side of things, Game Informer mentioned that you can learn various combos in the game. It's not the kind of action game where you are memorizing a series of useful inputs and trying to execute the right ones at the right moments. So we know there is a skill tree in this game. Likely, some aspects of this skill tree will allow you to unlock various different combos you can pull off. The mention here that you don't need to memorize specific inputs to then pull off specific combos, it does make me think, via that skill tree, is it a system where you simply just unlock a combo and you equip various different ones? When Kim was talking about the various different combat options here in the game, he did mention assassinations. So it seems like there is going to be an assassination system where if an enemy is unaware and you are behind them, you'll be able to execute them right there on the spot. This does make me think, if there is this system in place, is there also a stealth system? So we know that Shift Up are particularly proud of the boss fights that are on offer for the game. Kim mentions that they are the most important content in Stellar Blade. He mentions that there will be a level of pattern recognition and proactiveness from the player. I would hope so, especially because it is an action-orientated game. But he isn't trying to make a game like the From Software titles like Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. It should be noted though that there are some sort of Souls elements here in Stellar Blade. For instance, when you rest at a camp spot, it will respawn all of the enemies that you've killed out in the world. Very similar to a Souls game. Now, it seems like there will also be difficulty settings here. He mentions difficulty modes will exist for players who want them, but so will story modes. So we have mentioned this in the past, but just to reiterate, there will be a story narrative mode for people that just want to be able to experience the narrative of Stellar Blade and not get fisted every 4.6 seconds. It's hard to kind of gauge what the challenge factor of Stellar Blade will be like because we haven't seen a full-length gameplay of a boss fight. It looks like there are a ton of boss fights, and just because Shift Up keep mentioning the boss fights, I think this game will definitely provide a challenge for those people that are looking for an action game that does have depth. Again, I think the gameplay system is certainly competent, and if these boss fights are as spectacular and impressive as Shift Up are making them out to be, then this game should certainly provide a challenge for those of you who are looking for one. So the sword that Eve carries around is known as the Stellar Blade. You know, the title of the game. Imagine if Final Fantasy VII was called the Buster Sword. Same kind of thing. It is the only weapon in the game, so there's not going to be multiple different weapons that you can equip. You just have the Stellar Blade. You are able to upgrade it. Apparently upgrading it will cause it to swing faster as well as deliver more critical hits. Shift Up pretty much just want to focus on the one weapon. And because the name of the actual game is called Stellar Blade, and her weapon is of the same name, makes me think that there is going to be some sort of importance behind the weapon itself. Now, we did get the confirmation in this write-up that Eve is in fact a human. There have been theories floating around that the Airborne Squad could be made up of androids, very similar to that of the androids that exist within Nier Automata, the Yorha Squad. It's mentioned that she is at the same level as the other members in her Airborne Squad, and specifically she does have a secret though that distinguishes her from the rest of the squad. This is something that he hasn't elaborated on, but will be something we obviously do find out in the game itself. This may potentially have something that then connects to perhaps the Stellar Blade. Now, talking about the area in which most humans live within this world, which is out of space, Kim has described this as being this is where the most privileged people live. Kind of think like Elysium. However, the humanity that now exists in this off-world colony are led to believe that no more human life exists on Earth. This is one of the surprises that Eve finds out about upon arriving on Earth, to find out that, wow, okay, people are still living here. I think everything we've heard about the narrative thus far does sound interesting. It's that classic sort of take on apocalypse situation with the sci-fi elements mixed in with humans now living in space, but it's going to be interesting to unravel the mysteries of, you know, the sort of first moments where the Natiba came to Earth, how most of humanity was wiped out in that initial wave, and of course the construction of the off-world colony, and specifically the secret that has to do with Eve. Kim has also mentioned that there is some decision making in the game throughout the story, as well as in side quests, and that can sometimes change results. However though, don't take this as a confirmation that it's going to be a Nier setup with multiple different endings depending on your decisions. Kim has mentioned in a previous interview with Push Square that they are making a single player game with a definitive ending, so meaning one singular ending. Now, the costumes are an important aspect for Shift Up, obviously to be able to show off the "oh my god, my knees are weak and I'm starting to tremble and sweat" character model that they have for Eve. Know that there is going to be 30 different costumes throughout the game. Kim has mentioned that these will not do anything towards stats, they are purely cosmetic. Not only that, but additional outfits seem like they will also be coming to the game after release. We're not too sure if this is going to be free or paid DLC, but it seems like, again, this is something that Shift Up have big interest in, and considering that like most people are gawking over the various amounts of different
"oh my god, look at that ass" type outfits in the game,
this could be a pretty good marketing point here for Shift Up to capitalize on. So that's some more juicy Stellar Booba information. I just honestly cannot wait. As I was saying in the previous video, the more I read, see, and hear, and smell, and sniff of this game, the more excited I get. I'm really looking forward to someone playing the game. As of right now, no outlet has had the opportunity to actually have a hands-on preview of Stellar Blade. We're just wanting the question answered of, is this a fun game? Is the combat system good? With the game coming out next month, hopefully previews will start to begin maybe towards the end of this month or at the beginning of April. However, your turkey drumsticks, that's all for today. Thank you, dude, so much for tuning in. As always, big shout out to my patrons. You guys are turkey-tastic. Thank you so much for the juicy support. Be sure to subscribe to TGJ to keep up with all the latest. Check out my other social media channels. I'm Cynical, hopefully having a fantastic day, and I'll catch you guys real soon.